All right, it's Wednesday morning. Y'all know what that means. And I didn't fill my coffee cup up before we got started, so this is going to be a short episode. Good morning. Let's just jump right on out there. WTF CNN. This one's, man, this is adorable. Now, there's lots of bad crap on CNN this morning because, you know, it's CNN. But this one, this gave me a chuckle. As he turned 74 last week, the oldest man ever to assume the presidency got all defensive about how he looked walking down a ramp at West Point. In truth, his slow-mo shuffle didn't reveal anything that should embarrass a senior citizen. What was truly troubling was what Trump revealed the next day when he shouted on Twitter, "The silent majority is stronger than ever." Okay.
To be fair,
I've got some questions.
At least CNN put this in their opinion column.
Barely. You mean... Oh, CNN's opinion column. You mean CNN?
No, they've actually got a separate section on their website dedicated to opinion. They pretend as though it's not all biased.
Right.
I swear CNN couldn't report the sky was blue without throwing in some political subtext.
The sky is blue because racism.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Barack Obama shortly before he was elected. This is Obama after 2 years in the office. Trump at a campaign rally in 2016. Trump like a week ago. Okay, here, let me pull in close so you can see it good. There you go. Right? Trump a week ago. There's Obama right before he was elected to 2 years in office. And then Trump in 2016 and Trump a week ago. Who hasn't aged well? Guys, I mean, he might actually look older in the 2016 picture. 2016, 2020.
Well, look,
So
and this is...
Shut up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You.
I thought this was...
These guys. Not you.
Okay, I see. I see what happened.
That was a so shut up. You just happened to start talking too early. So shut up.
Fair enough.
Proceed, sir.
Well, I mean, first things first. This is one of those non-story things. Like, who is the presidency kind to?
Apparently Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he's been doing that spray tan and comb over thing for a long time.
Yes, he has.
Like, he's basically looked the exact same since about 65 years old. So, but in all seriousness, I mean, the job of the president ages you. It's almost like you have the most powerful position on the planet, and you constantly have more enemies than allies, and you have to watch your own back because the town you live in is a den of vipers.
Yeah, and okay, so you've got the now cliched tagline from the Spider-Man comic books: "With great power comes great responsibility." That's not only to say that with great power comes a need for you to personally take responsibility for using that power correctly and responsibly. Even if you are not even if you're not a total pacifist like all the superheroes in the comic books are, you cannot wield great power without having extraordinary burden of responsibility placed on your shoulders. Even if you are a completely evil man, you still have responsibilities that you will have chosen which responsibilities to concede to, right? That takes a toll. That's exhausting.
Well, the whole point of the piece was to segue into calling Donald Trump weak and out of touch. Like they're just using the physicality of him slowly walking down the ramp at
Right.
West Point, and
Which
they
is
even
hilarious because their answer to Donald Trump is weak and out of touch is vote Joe Biden.
I know,
Because,
right?
the thing.
Folks, you know the thing. Oh, did you literally just forget about God? You might have dementia, Joe. Just maybe. But no, I took the time to go through and read all this. And um, one thing that's been happening recently is the media's been deliberately antagonistic toward Trump. Um, you had Don Lemon a few weeks ago imply that Michelle Obama was better looking than Donald Trump's wife. And then, of course, you had a large section of the media accusing him of hiding in
Wait,
his
wait, wait.
bunker.
Did you just say that the gay man thinks that Obama's husband looks better than Trump's wife?
The irony was not lost on me, sir. I was just using
The
it as
irony
an
was also
example.
not lost on the internet.
Oh. Oh, and good morning, Rod. And Rod makes a fantastic point. He says, but he knows they're idiots and liars, stresses the difference between reality and expectations. And of course, if you have any semblance of competence or morality, being president is going to be stressful. And even if you're a truly evil bastard, being president is still going to be stressful. So, but what this is all to antagonize him, and it it's such an absolute nothing burger. Papa Sheepdog got clipped by an ice machine right on his knee when he was in his early 20s working for Coca-Cola. And he's got to be real careful walking up and down ramps. And he's not even in his 70s yet. And we're now talking about a guy who is in his 70s. Like, oh, Trump looks weak. Uh, I don't know. I mean, he could just be tired. There's that. And there could be the fact that he's in his 70s, and your knees and hips are apparently some of those things that start to go once you reach advanced age. Rod says Trump is deactivating HAL 9000. And of course, man, that's something we talked about a lot. That's the real reason they hate him. The outsider came in and he started cutting wires. You're
Oh yeah,
killing
the
me,
Democrats are
Dave.
scared to death that before they can get another Democrat in the White House, or before they can get another Democrat elected to anything, Donald Trump's going to mess around and solve all the problems that they've been promising to solve since the 60s.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to do it twice in his first 4 years in office.
Yeah.
Man, this whole coronavirus thing might end up blowing up in their face so terribly. So terribly. How many presidents can say, I've had two recoveries? Two. Neither one was my fault, but I helped fix it both times. It was the greatest two recoveries of all time.
Um, yeah, let's just take a quick peek. See, oh come on, give me the data. I don't need your. Jesus Christ, I'm trying to look up stock market data, and I feel like I'm looking up a recipe for something on the internet. It's like I don't give a shit about the foliage in northern Nantucket. Just tell me how to put the fucking lobster in the milk or something.
Dude, the internet doesn't want you to have facts. Facts are boring. The
No,
internet wants to appeal to
they
your
want me to have
emotion.
fluffy uh, shit your fluff.
We're the minority in the world, sir. Facts and logic don't appeal to everybody, apparently.
or
Most folks are
anybody.
most folks are incapable of understanding that their emotional reaction isn't necessarily the best reaction. In fact, I watched some of Rogan's podcast yesterday. Well, rather listened, because he had Jocko Willnick on, and that guy is like the personification of a badass.
Right.
You know? And he was explaining that part of what he trains people to do in all walks of life is to figure out where their emotions begin and end. Because if you make a decision while you're upset, literally nearly every single time, it ends up being the wrong decision. Now, your emotions can, of course, inform your decision, but making something when you're in the middle of an amped up, making that kind of a choice when you're in the middle of an amped up state, it's going to backfire on you like 10 out of 10 times.
So, yeah, we got rid of Obama. So this is this only goes back to July 17th. So this is looking at the last 3 years, right? So after Trump's in office for just July, 4 months, right? It just starts to move and it starts to take off and then just boom, right? Boom. Remember they made a big deal about this little drop right here, right here. It was oh yeah, that's the economy's been in recovery because Barack Obama did such a great job with the oh we're not talking about that anymore. It's not
Yeah,
Obama's economy anymore.
that was the inverted
Oh
bond yield.
oh,
Remember
but
that?
yeah. Oh, but now it's Obama's economy again. It's only doing good because Obama. This is Trump's fault because he didn't react to coronavirus fast enough. And by the way, it was right about here that I said we're going to see a short recession followed by a what was that? What was the word that I used, Cameron?
V-shaped recovery.
What does that look like to you?
Not quite a V, but pretty damn close.
Excuse me. That's a V.
It's it's a V like how my first grade son draws them, but okay, fine. It's a V.
I mean and so here's your high point. Here's the highest we ever got to right there. Right? 29,000, just barely under 30,000. Right? And we're already right now we're back at 26. We hit 27 last week. We had a little bit we had
2
another
weeks
little
ago.
dip. We had another little oh yeah, you're right, 2 weeks ago. We had another little dip when I don't know. The Democrats set the world on fire. But we're getting over it.
And what's really impressive about these recoveries is you got to realize this is without full participation from New York and Los Angeles. And so all these huge, densely populated areas, they're not participating after the recovery, not participating in the recovery, and we're already recovering. We were at the peak about 40 million jobs negative. And we're already back to only being about 21 million jobs negative. Now, of those 21 million jobs, not all of those are going to come back. It is a sad reality.
Yeah, because they burnt down the Wendy's. There's 100 jobs that aren't coming back.
Yes. So anyhow, WTF CNN, like if you just want to say, I'd actually have more respect for you, CNN, if you would just admit we think Orange Man is bad. So we're gonna Orange Man bad, the Orange Man bad, all Orange Man bad and day long.
Oh, like Smurfs.
I mean, basically, get the Smurf out of here.
Smurf off.
Oh, but unfortunately, so are we done with that, or are we ready to talk about the president's speech and executive order?
Yeah, we can move on. So basically, the riots happened because the Democrats were scared to death that people were going to start hiring people again, and that the economy wouldn't look bad enough going into the election for Joe Biden to lose a little less aggressively. So, you know, facing the fear that the economy is going to recover under Trump's watch and once again show that he is the most effective president in U.S. history, uh, by the numbers, they burned down the city. They burned down the cities, in large part to prevent you from getting jobs back. So, okay, we're going to move on to the speech a bit.
Yes, the executive order. Now, we're about to take a fairly negative view here, so let me just say it wasn't all bad. He had a line yesterday that just made me laugh out loud, where he said something to the effect of Barack Obama and Joe Biden had 8 years to sign an executive order like this, and they never did. It's just like, damn. Even when he makes a mistake, he still has excellent political instincts and knows how to just tweak them, just twist that knife a little bit.
Yeah, and
Because that is a factual statement.
To be clear, there are two mistakes that are made with this police reform. There are two mistakes, primarily. The first is that it is appeasement. Okay, this is the Munich Agreement. You're going to, if you give a terrorist a cookie, he's going to burn down your city and demand a glass of milk. And then you're going to give him a glass of milk. And then he's going to blow up your White House and demand a napkin to set his cookie on. And so on and so forth. Until eventually he's back to demanding cookies. Right? Take the Chaz, for example. Or is it the Chop now? Anyway, Veganzuela almost...
No. Wakanda.
Wakanda. Soyria. Soyria. So, like I was saying, over there in Antifa they immediately ran out of food and started demanding, basically, hey, we've seceded from the Union, declared ourselves a communist, a non-American communist sovereign nation. And since we're now a sovereign nation that has instituted communism and are therefore starving because communists are stupid, we demand foreign aid like all the other dirty commies out there. Why? Because we're dirty fucking commies. This stuff is not hard. Communism is bad. Wakanda. Antifa stan. You're getting chopped.
Soyaddle.
So, oh god, and I cannot wait to see how it develops with the Oath Keepers and Hell's Angels and all those guys that are riding up there on motorcycles to lay siege to Wakanda. I almost want to buy a motorcycle now.
Yeah, apparently they've already had to cede territory. They now only control like 3 blocks instead of 6.
Yeah.
Just makes it that much easier to draw a big fucking circle around them and starve them out. Because that's the answer. The more that this goes on, the more that I think just straight up, 400-year-old siege tactics. That's how you do it.
Yeah. Well, the other mistakes that are made here are Trump. Okay, there's the appeasement piece.
Yep.
You cannot. Appeasement doesn't work. North Korea is still a problem because appeasement doesn't work. Nazi Germany got as far as it did because appeasement didn't work. It's that simple. You cannot give in to the demands of terrorists they'll just, because all it does is it tells them that they can demand more, and they will continue to demand more. And if you can, no, it, it is time for bodies on the ground. Um, the correct answer is to actually lay siege to the Chaz and starve them for weeks, and then incarcerate them forever. Except for the criminal aliens. We need to just kick those fuckers out. Now, the other mistake that is made. Chokeholds will be banned except if an officer's life is at risk. This is a mistake. George Floyd fought a cop. It got him killed. Ahmaud Arbery assaulted an armed man who was attempting to conduct a perfectly lawful citizen's arrest. Rayshard Brooks took a weapon from a cop and became an armed felon. Every one of these men is responsible for their own death because they chose to use violence, and it did not end well for them. I dare you to point to a case, one of these BLM poster cases, which resulted in the death of an unarmed black man. And by the way, Rayshard doesn't count. Rayshard was armed. And hey, Arbery was also armed as soon as he put his hand on the shotgun. You cannot point to a case. Tamir Rice, he took the orange tip off and he aimed what looked like a real gun at police officers. You cannot point to a case where a black man was killed by police officers that did not begin with him initiating violence against a police officer. It's pure appeasement. Now, on the chokehold, I don't know if you've ever choked a man unconscious. I have. A lot.
I have once.
And I miss it. Let me tell you something. And when I say I've choked a man unconscious, a lot of men unconscious, I am a very well-trained hand-to-hand combat operative. I've got belts in Shaolin Kung Fu. I actually got all the way up to a black belt and then just refused to pay the $300 to take the test because, like, no, I got this. I don't need you to tell me I've got it. But I'm highly trained in martial arts, including Gracie Jiu-Jitsu through the U.S. Army. I have spent a lot of time applying the exact kind of chokehold that was almost applied to Rayshard Brooks. And let me tell you something. Dave, yes, Eric Gardner used violence. They attempted to arrest him, and he resisted and started throwing punches at cops, and that's what got him killed. It's that simple.
I don't remember Garner throwing punches. I remember him refusing to be cuffed, but I don't remember him throwing punches. In fact, what I recall, in fact, I'm certain of it. What Eric Garner did is he kept repositioning himself and throwing up his hands like this so that the officers couldn't pin him in. And that's why that one cop snuck up behind him and jumped on his back and brought him down with a chokehold. I'm certain that is factually correct.
Okay, so my point stands. He resisted arrest and used violence. Anyway, the thing about the chokehold, the neck hold, like we were talking about yesterday, the rear naked choke that was almost applied to Rayshard Brooks is a blood choke. It's sneaky. You don't realize your body doesn't feel like it's choking. Because your windpipe is not restricted when the rear naked choke, and that's the arm around the neck. You got a hand in your elbow here, and you got the other hand around the back of the head, and you put somebody down. I had to choke a guy out that was fighting a cop in East Texas one time, And I even tried to explain to him as he was screaming obscenities and slurs at me. I whispered in his ear, trying to get him to calm down. I said, "Brother, you need to get it under control. You're a black man in East Texas that just punched a white lady cop. I'm trying to help you." And he started screaming, and I won't even repeat the things that he said to me. And at that moment, I said, "That's enough of that." And yeah, just that little move right there rolled him up. He dropped like a sack of potatoes. We put him in the back of the police car. And apart from his military career being ruined because he was an active duty Air Force Staff Sergeant military police officer who was almost immediately ejected after that situation, I saved his damn life by choking him unconscious. Rayshard, part of the reason that Rayshard Brooks is dead right now is because when that officer attempted to put the chokehold on him, he hesitated. And I guarantee you that part of that hesitation is he was afraid that he would be the next Derek Chauvin. And that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. If he had just gone ahead and applied that choke, Rayshard would have gone unconscious and been safely incarcerated instead of being given the opportunity to continue to commit violence against the police, acquire one of their weapons, thereby becoming an inebriated, armed felon, and then firing that weapon at the police and dying of his own hubris and stupidity.
And I really realize that Chris and I are of minority opinion on this. And I would invite everybody to go listen to the first few minutes of the podcast with Joe Rogan and Jocko Willmich. Because one of the things that they talk about in the beginning of that podcast is, and again, Jocko is a trained Navy SEAL, Navy SEAL. And Joe Rogan was a martial arts champion on his 18th birthday. And one of the things that they both discussed is that, if you have the training, a chokehold is actually an extremely effective technique to make somebody go to sleep without causing them any permanent damage. Because, sure, there's a whole bunch of ways you can put somebody down on the ground, but, things like tasers can accidentally kill you. And, there's the old reliable.
With the chokehold, there's no fall.
And then there's the old reliable with the baton. You can always whack somebody in the face with it, but then you're risking brain damage and broken teeth,
yep,
and orbital blowouts and all these other nasty permanent injuries that you just don't want.
Yep, and with a rear naked choke, there's no concussion. You don't fall to the ground and hit your head. You don't... Okay, for one, you cannot knock somebody unconscious. Punch them, hitting the off switch, hitting them in the head with a ball bat. You cannot apply blunt force to a person's skull, resulting in their losing consciousness without causing a concussion. It is the concussion itself that causes unconsciousness in a blunt force trauma loss of consciousness equation. Period. Without the concussion, there is no loss of consciousness when you're talking about a blunt strike to the head. Rear naked choke, even the date rape choke, which right, the one hand on the neck, which is an air choke. It compresses the windpipe. Even that, no concussion, loss of consciousness without concussion, and an unconscious criminal is no longer resisting arrest.
Yeah, and proper training. Dave's in the comments. He says, "Who doesn't agree? Maybe it's time to use tranq darts." Again, tranq darts.
Actually, I'd be 100% for that. I'd be totally comfortable with that.
Well, the problem with tranq darts is they can also be lethal. As soon as you shoot one at an intoxicated person, you can't know how that's going to react in their system. They could just go to sleep and not wake up.
That may be the straw that broke the overdose's back.
And then The Willowbar says the other option was that he got free and in his drunk, armed state caused harm to other people, which could include children, the elderly, even decent people. Wait a minute, are you saying that children and elderly aren't decent? I'm confused.
Have you met children and the elderly? Children are little sociopaths because they haven't learned how to act in society yet, and old people just don't care enough anymore.
I'm probably going to be dead
Children,
in 10 years. I don't care.
children, children are prior to decency. The elderly are post it.
That's. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being a dirty old man. Are
Yeah,
you
hell yeah.
serious?
Bring me my diapers and sexual slurs.
But anyhow, no.
I'd like some insure and objectification, please.
But yeah,
right,
actually,
with my corncob pipe and my mirrored cane.
but every time you take an option away from a police officer, that whole continuum of force thing that the left wants cops to use, that actually becomes a narrower and narrower and narrower path, because we're not at a point yet where we're going to take the guns away from the cops. We're not there. So if you take other tools away from them, it's that many fewer steps until they get to the point to where they draw their firearm. Now, to be clear, we think the whole continuum of force thing is bullshit anyway, because, I mean...
Yeah, and, okay, so let me say this about the continuum of force. The continuum of force concept is a lot like everything else that the left wants to do. Like, for example, segregation. And that's one of those things that Black Lives Matter is all for. They're all about some segregation. But, you know, there's an interesting factor here. We tried that before and it didn't work well. And there's a reason that we stopped doing it. Similarly, with the continuum of force, this is not a new concept. There is not a continuum of force in use by most police departments. There may be a few out there, so I'll go ahead and caveat it with most. But the thing is, law enforcement has tried the continuum of force thing, the exact continuum of force concept that BLM and 8 Can't Wait and the like are pushing now, and they stopped doing it. And they stopped doing it for one very important reason. It's not only legalized, but it's enforced torture requirement. So here's how it works. The continuum of force says, before you use lethal force, before you can use lethal force, before it is authorized to use lethal force in an arrest, you must first exhaust all of your other options. And then those other options are in a specific order. So in each step you have to ask yourself, wait, did I mace him yet? Are we up to billy clubs? Did we get to tasers yet?
Wait, have we tried the rubber bullets?
Have we tried the rubber bullets? Have we tried the pepper spray bullets? Have we tried the CS gas canisters? Did we hit him? Did we hit him in the head with billy clubs yet? And so basically, you have to do all of the things. So if you haven't thrown the car battery on the nipple clamps yet, you're still not allowed to shoot him. You have to continue to torture the suspect until you have exhausted all of your torture mechanisms. And then, after he's been beaten with a club, electrocuted, chemically assaulted, and whatever else is in the repertoire, probably a few good stern kicks to the kidneys, then you can return fire. Even if at any point in that chain he continues to escalate his violence.
Yeah, and
it's stupid.
The other thing that's stupid is, if you've ever been in a real fights don't have rules. One person submits. That's when the fight is over. That's really the only actual rule in a fight. There's a winner and there's a loser. All of this stuff where you think, we're going to put up our dukes and everybody's going to play by the same set of rules. No, sugar. That's not how any of that works. In fact, I remember Papa Sheepdog telling me one time when I was a kid, so if you are going to fight, go ahead and kick them in the balls and punch them in the nose. They'll do it to you. Like it's just a fact. Dave, that's right. We forgot the dogs.
Oh yeah.
Dave,
Oh, the dogs.
look, and you don't want a trained police dog on you. Ooh,
Nope.
buddy. That is definitely not the one you want. That's the kind of thing where they count your stitches by the hundreds.
Yep.
Like, and then just to put a button on it, um, you were telling me this morning that Ahmaud Arbery's mom has already come out and said the president's EO doesn't go far enough.
Yeah. It's let's see. I think it was on the CNN homepage. Let me just double check real quick, see if I can find it.
But you don't appease. It goes back to something else that we were talking about with Drew Brees. Like you don't apologize. Now you apologize if you've legitimately done something wrong, but apologizing just to make somebody feel better, yeah, try that with your coworkers. Try that with your spouse. Try that with your family members. I mean, the only thing you're going to be required to do is to continue apologizing because there's that whole thing about an apology without a change in attitude and or behavior is not a true apology. So if you say, gosh, I'm sorry, but then you continue to think, feel, and act the way you were prior to the apology, you're just going to be required to make more and more and more apologies. It's just that simple.
Um, I'm not seeing it, and I'm not going to spend any more time looking for it. But there, I did already see an article this morning that said Arbery's mother says the executive order doesn't go far enough, and of course she says that. I mean, she let's be real. Who is Ahmaud Arbery's mother? She's a woman who raised a couple of felons.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, but not sorry. Well, go back and look at that video from Arbery
You want to
from
make sure that your
2017.
parents you want to make sure that your kids don't grow up to get shot by cops, marry their daddy, feed them
Yep.
good,
Mm-hmm.
and raise them to not be criminals.
Yeah. Oh, good morning, Drew. That's okay. Better late than never. At least you showed up.
I'm sorry, Drew. I was about done. I was about to wrap it up and call it a day. You got anything else there, Cameroon?
Um. Wow. Okay. So Willow Bar. What more does she want other than her kid back? And Ron says government checks involved. I mean, I'm just gonna guess the answer is yes,
Yeah,
based on all the other circumstances.
she wants free money.
Um, but getting her kid back, if you could actually, if you could potentially bring some of these people back to life by doing these things, then okay, maybe. And even if it were possible that you would have fewer deaths in the future because of these things, okay, maybe. But this is going to, and I will hammer this point forever, this is going to result in the deaths of more black men. Not fewer, more. If we keep teaching them that the cops are evil, they're going to keep acting like the cops are evil, and the cops are going to have no choice but to treat them a certain way. Because, again, I'm going to reference Papa Sheepdog, who, as Dave says he sent you the article.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now.
Because Papa Sheepdog said more than once that if there was ever in a situation where he was legitimately scared, he legitimately felt like his life was on the line, he'd much rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6, period. And as you've pointed out many times, Chris, if lethality is not an option somewhere in the spectrum, You cannot have law enforcement. You just can't.
And I appreciate the popping the article over, Dave, but we're about to wrap it up. And let me just say this about that, about Arbery's mother. What more does she want? Let me tell you something.
She wants a gold casket for her son.
Arbery, Brooks,
Castile, Breonna Taylor.
They all have one thing in common. They are the monsters and the criminals that they are because they were raised by people who would rather have a check from the government than their kid back, given the options. That's who we're talking about. We're talking about criminals who do criminal shit. Now, we haven't talked about Breonna Taylor on this show much, and we might talk about that a little more, but go read if you think that she's a good example, that she's the one that breaks the rule.
Oh my God, she was murdered in her bed. Oh
no. Go take a look at that one. The police had a warrant with a no-knock exception on 2 separate houses, between which massive drug traffic was occurring. They keep saying that they no-knocked her house looking for a suspect that they already had in custody. That's a lie. They simultaneously raided both houses. They no-knocked the trap house. They knocked on Breonna's door. When the SWAT team knocked on the door and announced themselves, they were fired upon. Okay? This bullshit about they no-knocked and murdered her in her sleep. No, they knocked on the door. Somebody in the house opened fire. The police returned fire, and 8 of the rounds that were fired, and we don't know that all 8 rounds came from the cops either. Frankly, we don't know that she hadn't already been shot before they got there. Y'all understand what's happening here? The Breonna Taylor narrative is also a blatant lie. The no-knock warrant did not get her killed because they knocked on her door. The trap house that they did use the no-knock exception on, that raid went off without a hitch. No casualties, no injuries, no shots fired. They entered quickly. They arrested the several men inside, confiscated the large quantity of drugs and guns, and they did it without incident. Now, on a constitutional basis, I don't like the idea of no-knock warrants. I don't. I want to be a Fourth Amendment absolutist. I want to be a Fifth Amendment absolutist. I really, really do. But we've got some real problems. And those real problems are men and women who are raised by single mothers who would rather have a government check than their kid back.
Yeah, Willow Bar says, I was a single mom working 4 jobs. Well, then somebody else raised your kids. I dare say if you're brought up in an environment where your single parent works multiple jobs to make ends meet, you're actually less likely to be a criminal because at least you have an extremely positive role model in your life. What you have, again, according to things Papa Sheepdog has told me, is when you've got multi-generational houses that all walk to the mailbox on the first. The houses are majority female, and they all walk to the mailbox on the first. And that's the hardest thing they do all month.
Yeah. I don't want to get too far down that road because yeah, it's time to put a button in this. It's Wednesday, so I've got a meeting that I've got to be in just a minute, and I'm out of coffee. So, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Hopefully something goes right today because we've been, 3 weeks without a legitimate Totar Win?
Yeah, it's been sad. Maybe we'll find some of the saltiest tweets. And,
Dear Mr. President, I want to run the Totar Win sounder tomorrow. Please, Moab, Pyongyang.
That would be awesome.
Do that for me.
Oh, look at Dave's last comment. That's funny. So I shouldn't just sign the Facebook
No, Dave.
petition, Justice for
You
Brianna.
should not sign that petition. You should not. No appeasement. No appeasement.
All right.